We're following breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ out of the NBA, where Clipper star Kawhi Leonard is expected to be sidelined indefinitely with a knee injury. That's according to ESPN. He's still rehabbing his way back from inflammation in his right knee and will not be ready for the start of the season next week. Leonard was forced to miss the Paris Olympics and most of last year's playoffs with that knee injury. It'll be another sideline stint for Kawhi. He hasn't played in 70 games in a single season since 2017. All right, let's bring in our coach, Avery Johnson, here to talk about this. Avery, first of all, start just by giving us your reaction here to the news that Kawhi Leonard out indefinitely.
Well, I'm not surprised. Kawhi Leonard, for the last, 5 years plus, he's had, serious issues with trying to stay healthy. So this is not, even though we're breaking it as breaking news, this was the same guy that the Olympic team said, look, you need to go home. You can't be a part of our Olympic team because probably you can't stay healthy and you're not a great fit for the team. So this is a terrible blow for a team that's moving into a new arena. You allowed Paul George to walk without any compensation. You have zero draft capital because I believe the next 3 years you don't have a pick, and then you have swaps with Oklahoma City. They own your picks. They have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who finished second or so in the MVP race. So this is not good news for the Los Angeles Clippers as they embark on the start of this regular season.
Yeah, hey, Coach, they're getting set to open the Intuit Dome next week. They take on the Phoenix Suns in the opening game on October the 23rd. So if you're Ty Lue here and you've got this situation with Kawhi out indefinitely, how are you working this in terms of your roster construction as you get set for the season?
Well, they don't really have the roster construction to support such a devastating move, because Paul George, if he was still there, if they would have given him the no trade clause, signed Paul George, then Paul George could fill in and you get Kawhi back January, February. You still got Paul and James Harden and Terrence Mann. But now, Derrick Jones Jr., who you signed in the offseason, he's not an offensive juggernaut. That's why the Mavericks didn't re-sign him, and they went and signed Klay Thompson. So this team right now look like a bottom of the basement team in the Western Conference, which is an already deep conference.
Coach, looking at it now, I know it's out indefinitely, but Kawhi, he did play over 60 games last season. He has come back from injury before. I know the team has said, both Ty Lue and assistant coach Brian Shaw have said, the team is trying to manage this in such a way that it's going to be helpful for Kawhi long term, that he is going to be able to play more games. So if you're going into this season, looking at this situation now, as you sit here today, what is your expectation in terms of how many games you think Kawhi could participate in this season?
And Jerry, I don't know what they're talking about in terms of helping Kawhi long term. This guy's not getting any younger. He's getting older. He's closer to the finish than he is long way from the beginning. So I don't know what the point is about long term. And even if you bring him back in January or February or March, you're probably going to be out of the playoff conversation or play-in conversation. So I don't quite understand that. So my expectations right now for him for the rest of his career, I can't see him playing more than 50 games a season. He's not going to be able to play on back-to-backs. You probably got to give him the load management or rest because of his injury history. So for a team that's moving into a new arena that allowed Paul George to walk away without any compensation, it would have been better to keep Paul George. And even if you're not a playoff team, then you trade Paul George, ask him what team does he want to sign with, get some of that draft capital back that you lost in the trade with Oklahoma. So I don't see any way out for the Clippers right now. If Kawhi Leonard is out indefinitely, for the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah, there was a lot to be excited for coming into the season, but it's not getting any better with Kawhi out indefinitely. Our coach Avery Johnson joining us here to break down what that means for the Clippers as they get set to open the Intuit Dome next week. Their opening game against the Phoenix Suns on the 23rd will be without Kawhi Leonard for the foreseeable future as he is out indefinitely. As you take a look at the odds to win the West, and to Coach's point, I mean, he said they're a team that's slated to be in the basement of the Western Conference, and that's exactly where they are in terms of the odds. Plus 35.
Welcome back to Hoopzone Sports News.
Welcome back to Hoopzone Sport News. We've got breaking news out of Los Angeles that could shake the Clippers season before it even begins. Kawhi Leonard is expected to be sidelined for the start of the NBA season, continuing to rehab his right knee. If you're a Clippers fan or just an NBA enthusiast, this one is big, so stay tuned. Shams Charania has reported that Kawhi Leonard is still dealing with knee inflammation and won't be ready for the beginning of the season. This isn't just a minor setback. Kawhi has been dealing with this issue since last spring. 6 months later, he's still not ready, and that raises serious concerns. This isn't just bad news for the Clippers, but for Kawhi's career as well. It's troubling when you think about how little we've seen Kawhi on the court. Out of a possible 435 games since he joined the Clippers, he's missed 179 of them. Let that sink in. Brian Windhorst and Kendrick Perkins are already questioning how much, if at all, Kawhi will play this season. Perkins even suggests that it might be time for Kawhi to have the tough conversation about potentially retiring. Could this be the end of the road for one of the league's most talented two-way players? But it's not all doom and gloom for the Clippers. With James Harden now on the roster, they believe they can tread water without Kawhi. Harden looks to be in top form, and while no one expects him to be exactly like his Houston days, he's showing signs of being a dominant leader for this team. Harden, along with Norm Powell and Ivica Zubac, will need to step up in Kawhi's absence to keep the Clippers competitive in a stacked Western Conference. So, what do you think? Is it time for Kawhi Leonard to seriously consider retirement? Or do you believe he can bounce back and lead the Clippers to a deep playoff run? And how far can this Clippers team go without him if they have to rely on Harden? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to Hoopzone Sport News for more NBA updates and analysis. Until next time, stay locked in.